June 10th, 2024. Mr. Klein, would you say the invocation?
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us the opportunity once again to meet, to carry out your purposes in this county for these citizens. We ask that you give us thoughtful consideration of everything that comes before us, that we will debate well and vigorously, and that we will come up with a conclusion that is the best for the people of Sumner County. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Before we get started, Chairman Hyde wanted to say something to the committee. I'm going to defer to him and our moderator.
As the committee may know, people associated with the county commission, we had a situation that occurred in the last meeting of the education committee, which has not, to my knowledge, ever happened before. And I've been here 31 years. And knowledgeable of it a few years before that. Now, if someone can tell me a situation that has occurred since then, I'll be very happy to listen to them. The situation was that the chairman of the education committee was voted out of his position, and another chairman was elected. The county lawyer sent a letter to all of us, including me, which stated that I should give a term that I'm familiar with, having the most history here, I suppose, of what the term of a chairman should be. I have not done that yet. I am very thoughtfully and prayerfully considering my response, which will be announced at the county commission meeting and not here tonight. But in the meantime, the council for the county has suggested that Mrs. Bergdorf should be for this meeting. And it could perhaps be the only meeting, but for this meeting, the vice chair of the committee should be the recognized representative of the education committee until this other is sorted out, which I expect it to be at the next commission meeting. Therefore, Ms. Bergdorf, by that authority, is the representative of the education committee tonight.
I would just add, I know that I've read, I just called up the other day out in the country, that I read the law director's opinion. It doesn't seem to me, and I guess Robert's rules was violated, in my opinion, reading Robert's rules on how that happened as far as lack of proper notice for the removal of the chairman. But I do think it is within the right of the committee to be able to do that. Based on precedent, but I see it. I think it's a weird situation calling that off both. Honestly, I don't think it would be appropriate, Commissioner Becker, to recognize you as chairman based on what Commissioner Chairman Hyde just said or the law record. So, respectfully, just for this month, I'm just acknowledging that. So, so this will be I'll be recognizing Vice Chair or Acting Chairman Bergdorf just for today until proper parliamentary procedure be followed next month. So just wanted to set that out there. So
may I speak?
Sure.
Okay. So I realize and recognize that this was, hadn't happened before, it wasn't in our rules and all that stuff. But I just want to point out, and I sent an email late this afternoon. The chairman of the committees, the committee chairmen have never gone on and have been approved by the full commission or the commission chairman. They've never been involved in that. And so I think this is setting, well, I know this is setting a dangerous precedent, given the chairman of the commission the authority to decide who is and who is not a chairman. I think that's something that obviously, is not addressed in our rules. I don't think that goes along with the Roberts rules where it gives the chairman that much authority. And so, I'm not going to cause a scene whatsoever. But the will of the Education Committee was to have me be the chairman. And as it stands right now, the commission chairman is unilaterally overriding the will of that committee. And so I don't see it any other way. There is no other way. It's simple, it's black and white, right? But beyond that, I'm not going to make a scene, but I would like to make sure this committee actually has a quorum, because the chair of the Education Committee, myself, being a voted member, is not being recognized, where a vice chair of the committee who's not a voting member sounds like is going to be recognized. So in my opinion, if that's the case, this committee doesn't have a quorum.
So, appreciate your comments. I disagree. It's not a black and white issue. And reading the law director's letter, I understand what you're saying about the chairman. I don't feel like this is a move of the chairman unilaterally doing anything. Reading the law director's letter, I interpret it as, it's my opinion, there were two pathways on how to properly do it in the committee with proper advance public notice, which, we're being sued over something like that for a false accusation saying we didn't do proper notice for bringing somebody on an agenda from the floor. So here you are doing something, you're violating Robert's rules about the actions the Education Committee took based on what I was reading from Robert's rules and the law director's opinion on that in our standing rules. All of my interpretation of that is it's not that the commission chairman is doing anything, it's just it needs to happen next month in Education Committee, properly noticed, and that's the proper path. I didn't interpret it as necessarily the chairman doing anything necessarily, so I understand both sides. I feel a little caught in the middle on it, procedurally and parliamentarily, in all fairness. So, but I do have a question, so that's just,
Yeah,
so, in all fairness, so, not to say that next month's going to be different, I don't disagree with that, so, or disagree with the committee's ability to do that, so I would never argue with that personally, but I guess I would like to hear from the commission chairman and our law director, I guess, on your opinion on having a quorum tonight with Vice Chair Bergdorf acting as chair in this instance. So,
the only thing I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, is that last month, at the last meeting of the Education Committee, when this occurred, I had absolutely no knowledge. I did not know that this was going to occur. Perhaps if I'd had some knowledge, I could have given a little bit of wisdom or something toward the situation. I did not know what the attorney, and he's sitting here and can very well tell you that. I did not know what the attorney was going to advise. I did not consult with the attorney. And all of this power and authority that I'm supposed to have to do these things, someone else can have it. I'm not particularly crazy about making these kinds of decisions, and these kinds of unilateral decisions are not my forte. I've tried to operate the commission in a fair and respectable way, and I think that I'll be able to present a resolution to this that will be an equitable solution at the commission meeting. So that I don't intend to say anything else or debate this any further.
I guess that leaves the outstanding question on as far as quorum. I'm not going to say I can say one way or the other as far as an acting chairman. I mean, Commissioner Bergdorf is the acting
Yeah, and if we follow Robert's rules, that's exactly what would happen, is going with Commissioner Becker's position, if all of that went the way he said, because it wasn't noticed is our issue. And what would happen based on Robert's rules, vice chairman is the interim chairman until the notice has been given and a new either vice chairman or chairman is elected. So what we have here, if you take that position, or the other alternative is to end the meeting and kick everything down the road a month, or special call it once. Would that come out of education? Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, my opinion is we have a quorum that, based on it.
I think the vice chair can act, and we are well within the parameters of having a quorum at that point in time. I believe. That's my opinion.
Chairman Hyde, do you have any?
Well, obviously, if I accept the attorney's advice, I would agree that she is the representative and the voting member of the committee at this time for this meeting until the resolution is accomplished.
Okay. All right. Well,
Chair, I have a question, because I'm just not clear on this. If we're missing several people tonight, if we'd have known in advance, if the vice chairman of those committees showed up in their stead, would that be legal? Would that be? No, it's not. So the only way that works is the budget committee, you're going to be the assistant chairman. You will be chairing that.
correct.
But it wouldn't work in the other.
If I may, I'm basing that on a bona fide vacancy.
Okay. I just
Yes,
needed
that's
to
the difference here.
understand that. Okay.
Well, treating it as a vacancy and taking it Chairman Hyde's opinion and a lot of opinion on this matter. I feel that we have a quorum, with acting Commissioner Bergdorf acting as chairman for today. So the four of us, Chairman Hyde, Commissioner Bergdorf, Commissioner Klein, and myself, we will conduct business for the public. All right. Before we approve the agenda, I want to add, Commissioner Holmes had asked me to add this on behalf of a lot of citizens. Discussion regarding TVA lines that are running through farms on Douglas Lane in Gallatin. So we will put that under new business item F. Discussion about TVA. All right. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve the
Motion
agenda.
by Commissioner Klein. Do I have a second? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Klein, made a motion. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Recognition of the public. We have quite a few people in here. For the sake of time, I'm going to limit this to 3 minutes apiece. And first one up, I don't know, is it Darlin Ferris?
It's Carolyn.
Darylyn Ferris. If you would mind just coming up here and stating your name and address for the record, please, for the minutes.
How many minutes do I have?
3 minutes.
Only 3? You got something to go on with. I'll try to make it short. I'm here about our library. I've used our library there in Hendersonville at least 3 days a week doing research and so forth. We have a beautiful library, all kinds of programs for children and adults, senior citizens, classes, and so forth. I'm not familiar with other libraries, unfortunately, in Sumner County. Now, here's what my problem is. I didn't realize until recently that part of the property in the library itself was ownership of the county. I don't know what all happened prior to this. But anyway, now what I'm understanding that they want to take full ownership of our library. And here's one of the problems I can see. Before I moved to Hendersonville, before the library was built, there was a lot of citizens and Kim Tackett taken the attorney got a group together, and I understand they donated about $2 million. And then the city donated some, and then the county donated. Okay. Also, the maintenance for this library, I'm told, by several of the aldermen, the document that explains it, it can be interpreted several different ways. So I think that needs to be drafted again. And if, in fact, they agree to quit claim this property over fully, it's halfway now, fully, to the county, there's one thing that's going to have to be put in writing. And the fact that this building, that property, will always be our library. That's a security thing. Because, you know, if somebody decided, well, we need to put something else there, move the library somewhere else, you know, that's going to really upset everybody. So that needs to be made clear. And until it's made clear, I'm almost positive that the alderman at the Bowman meeting is not going to approve this quick claim deed to give it all to the county. So I'm just trying to give you all a forethought about this before this comes up tomorrow night at the Bowman meeting. And I'm trying to explain to you why we need our protection and also the maintenance. I know for 6 months last winter, we could not print from the computers on the printer for documents. And everybody kept saying, what's going on? So finally, I called up here and said, don't ask me who I talked to, but it had something to do with the library board. And they said, well, we didn't know about that. And I said, well, I've called several people, and for 6 months we have not had access to the printer. And what it wasn't anything wrong with the printer. The upgrading of the computer system for all the libraries in Sumner County. Can I finish my sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. All the libraries had updated their computer system. And for some reason, ours had not been done. It wasn't talking, the computer was not talking to the printer. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Connie Ramsey, if you would mind coming up and stating your name and address for the record. 30 minutes.
I'm Connie Ramsey. I live in Sumner County now most of my life. I live at 260 Flint Lane. And I'm here tonight because TVA is proposing to run a cable, electrical cable, through my property that was a land grant to my grandmother in the early 1800s. My grandmother gave part of this land grant to her children as they married, and I still live on that property today. My grandfather, when he received his property, built the house. My grandfather lived in it, raised their family. My mother was born in the house. My dad died there, and I still live in that house. You people can say that in Sumner County. We are working to try to get this into a single farm. My daughter is planning to come back and build here, and my grandchildren are planning to come back. So and take down his property for me at that. The cable that they are planning on running is coming in on the north side of my property, and it is going through the middle of my property to the Vandercook farm. It is completely cutting it in half. It is within 200 yards of my back door. And there, we have gas lines, natural gas lines going through. We have White House utility going through, but their lines are buried. These lines, these cables are on towers. They're cutting my farm in February, they raise their young. And they are protected by a migrant law with the federal government. They're going within 100 feet of that. They're nesting at the back pond on the back of the lot. The TVA has other routes that they can take without coming through our place and destroying the heritage of my farm. And we have been in touch with people in the county, and they did not realize that this was going on. And we wanted to come here tonight and make you aware of what is going on. I thank you very much for your time, and I do appreciate your consideration. Thank you, sir.
All right, Kevin Baker.
Kevin Baker, 424 Amy Wade Road. First of all, regarding that TVA line, you know, if you were in Europe right now, they wouldn't allow them to build within a certain distance from your property. We had this issue when they annexed the land for the Liberty Creek. If you were in Europe, they would not allow those schools to be built underneath those high TVA lines. In any event, that's not why I'm here to talk to them. Paid parking and ownership. It's clear that the county owns that land, and we pay a boatload of money for that parking garage. I'm not for collectivism. Anybody that stands here and says that they're for free parking for the few people that are going to use that, specifically the people that go to the Judicial Center or downtown Gallatin, the rest of us don't use it. Why should we have to pay for it? Paid parking is a legitimate way of covering your expenses, and I highly recommend that you support that concept. Even if it's a nominal fee to just cover the expense of upkeep and maintenance of the place. But thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Baker. Next up is Charlene Homer. State your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Charlene Homer. I live at 143 Main Street, Tennessee, 370. And I'm here to respectfully request that you make clear what the minimum lot size under any of those zones after the proposed changes under 10A will exist. What is minimum lot size that any land could be sold in the county? The second thing I would like to talk about is the library, and since there seems to be a lot of people here interested in it, I tend to agree with some comments that have been made that I don't think anything would be lawful here, because there's a difference between notice where the chairman is intentionally keeping it off the agenda and where the chairman would have the ability to control the agenda to make sure that they could never be renewed. Also, I find it really interesting that the committee is willing to recognize the removal and vacancy of the position, but in the same motion that replaced that person, they're not recognizing that. Third, the minutes probably couldn't be approved because commissioners weren't here, and so there's only 3 people to vote for it. But so if there's a bona fide vacancy as
Ms. Homer, that's not an agenda item. Someone asked you, please move on to your next subject.
it was a decision that was made though, whether it was made on the agenda or not.
It's not an agenda item, so I can read your public comments now, or you can continue.
Oh, thank you. So what I would like to say is I would like for you guys to consider to give the entire public library to Hendersonville instead of taking it from Hendersonville. If you could at least acknowledge that that is a possibility, that would be great. Solomon's meeting tomorrow night, and I don't know why the county has to take it. In fact, there's a commissioner at this table who has said that he will never do anything for Hendersonville. So I would not trust this county commission with my Hendersonville library. Thank you.
All right, next up, Bill Duncan. Can we step up to the table and state your name and address? Mr. Duncan, you have 3 minutes.
Is my desk still in your office, John? Thank you. I'm Bill Duncan. I live at 655 Douglas Lane. My daddy bought the farm when I was in the 7th grade, and it wasn't a real pleasure going out there and hauling the bike and looking for 3 lost calves and whatever. Douglas Lane was a 1-lane gravel road. If you met a car, you backed up in the entrance to someplace, and
on both sides of the farm he bought. Cattle was a industry that was used by most people. And here we are in a time when we're saying that electricity is so important that we have to have it. I don't see any red lines on that map where the farm that we're talking about, the Bowles place, is in. The first time I ever saw Ms. Bowles, she came to the Sales Community Club, and they hadn't built the road, the 109, the 4-lane. And she cried and talked about she and her husband just wanted a place of peace. And now here we are 2 generations later, and I'm still looking at that place of peace. But we have the TVA who had shown exactly how stupid they could be 27 miles from here in that nuclear plant that they built $6 billion into, and they didn't have to worry about the money on it because it just went up on the electricity to EMC here and to Murfreesboro and other places. But with the loss of things, they dug holes and buried new trucks and construction equipment and whatever. Now in Charleston County, we have a cooling tower. And the people in Charleston County aren't real smart, because the other day I was talking to several of the geniuses up there, and I asked why we couldn't make a run of whiskey out of that cooling tower. They wanted to know they could probably do it, but they wanted to know how they'd fill it up. And I told them a 3/4 inch hose pipe would do it about 4 generations from now. So we have seen that TVA take their licks and they lick on their foot and they say, oh, we've got to do this now. We've got 3 routes we've got to go on this line. And one is number 12, and it is about 1/4 of the length of number 18, and it's far less expensive and far better for the people there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Miss Janice Duncan is next.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
She said everything in this world to me, doesn't
Miss Laura Baker, state your name and address for the record.
Laura Baker, 424 80 Wade Road, Portland. To the folks here about the TVA, I sympathize with your situation, and there was a similar situation going on in Gallatin. I lose track of time the last couple of years, and citizens speaking out and giving their input did change things, so don't back down on it, and if the commission can help, I'm sure they will. What I really signed up to speak on was the USAC Oil Volunteer Fire Department leads. I just wanted to make 2 comments about the leads that I think is in front of you tonight. One is, it talks about providing an insurance certificate for anybody who uses the building. It also talks about having one from the fire rescue group themselves. And I would like to see that they have to provide that directly to the county as proof that they have it, not just say that they have it. And then the second point would be that there's a provision in there for the organization to charge rent, and they would collect that as a charitable contribution, I suppose, towards their expenses. And I don't agree with that at all. Not every one of the fire halls have that. First of all, taxpayers pay for that building. And second of all, not every fire hall has that capability. And I don't think it's fair to put them on an unequal footing with everybody else in terms of being able to get that revenue. If there's any revenue collected, it should come back to the county to offset what we've spent on putting the building up or maintaining the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Next up is Mr. David Patton. If you would mind stepping up, say your name and address.
David Patton, 592A Douglas Lane. Here about the TVA power lines. I agree with Mr. Duncan when he's talking about Route 18 and Route 12. Route 12 seems to be more favorable for a commercial setting and running power lines down and less intrusive on the residential folks. But then also on 18, you've got tree lines you've got to cut down, you've got construction roads to build, and to have access to the line for repair in the future is more intrusive on us residential folks and farm folks. Plus, anybody's got some property along that line and they want to sell it or build in the future, it's taking the trees all down and running a power line is less attractive. And I think would affect future long-term value of our property. So I'm asking for them to consider possibly Route 12. Appreciate the opportunity to come talk to you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Next up, Mr. Scott Goodwin. Figured out the drill. Name and address.
I got it. That's a copy of the transmission line proposals that everyone wants a copy of.
Okay, great. I appreciate it.
Look at. My name's Scott Goodwin. I live on 592C Douglas Lane. We bought our property out here in 2016 with that goal of having our forever home and having a dream that we were going to retire and go old and have our privacy and our peace and quiet. Tree-lined woods all around me. We got every kind of natural animal we could have, from woodpeckers, pileated woodpeckers, red-headed woodpeckers, on and on and on. I even went to the point of buying a lot behind my house to protect myself from a subdivision coming in or somebody taking out my trees. I could have my privacy, my peace, my quiet, and just enjoy what Sumner County has to offer. Now, they're talking about going down a route potentially at 6.3 miles. There's a shorter route that goes straight up 109. It's 3.2 miles, half the distance. But we can tuck this thing away, go in behind a bunch of people's individual homes where people have built homes, leave us holding the bag. I'm going to hope TVA does the right thing. I know you guys have no say in this. I would hope you guys would consider doing a resolution saying, hey, TVA, we would encourage you guys to please consider doing as little impact on the individual homeowners as possible and staying right on 109 so it doesn't impact everybody or as many more people as necessary. You can read things online. Sounds like our property values could decrease by as much as 50%. Now, that may not be true. What I do know, the fire pool for my property will go down dramatically because somebody wants to live on 11 acres. They don't want to see a 120-foot power line. They will take every tree out along my entire back of my property, not just there. They'll continue on down farm. It's 80 acres one way, the other way, and now I'm going to have a sterile setting. And I'm left holding the bag financially because Gallatin has grown at a pace that we don't have power lines, we don't have enough power, we don't have enough roads, we don't have enough schools. And I could possibly be the one to flip the bill because I have to settle for half the price to go have my same setting somewhere else. I don't think it's fair. I know you guys don't control it. I don't think it's the intent of TVA. I don't think anybody's bad people. But I think staying on an interstate where it impacts a lot less people makes a lot more sense. And I would hope you guys would consider doing a resolution just encouraging them to do what I hope they're going to do anyway.
All right, thank you so much. And next up is CJ Karen Clark.
Nothing to say, I think that was just a sign, I'm sorry.
All right, I'll get it. Versace, Strata Civic, I cannot read, I'm sorry. My apologies for butchering your name. Strata Civic, sorry. 3 minutes.
The same about the power line here, I bought that land several years ago. I got retired and I just was thinking how to have peace of mind, enjoy my retirement, my kids, grandkids, and
Mr. Bob Barrow.
Good evening, Bob here, 614 Douglas Lane. I'd like to start by doing Scott. Thank you, Scott, because I think we covered most of our issues this evening, Mr. Goodman. I also want to thank the legislative committee for hearing this issue. We're cognizant that it's really not within your purview, but we really are looking for your support. So this power line proposed by TVA does not directly come through our property on 614, so I'm really here on behalf of our neighbors. And I'm also here as a healthcare professional concerned about electromagnetic fields. I'm not going to go into that detail. I think, it depends on what you want to read these days and what side you want to sit on that argument, but I think people realize there's still enough uncertainty about the impact on health and wellness of electromagnetic fields that we should also have general concern about where we live relative to low frequency and high frequency power lines. I think the impact on property is not an issue of debate. Property values decrease. Now, that being said, I think TVA has done a very thoughtful job of proposing multiple options. As you've seen, I think what was most disconcerting from the original meeting, where they were very gracious and laid out all the options, was the lack of an explanation for why they did not come up with a clear proposal for the use of 109, which you already heard. The explanation we received is that TVA typically does not want to use highways or roads because they want to reserve the right for the possible expansion of those roads and highways in the future and not have to move the power lines. I think this becomes a default option of infringing upon people's individual properties and not making use of property that's already been cleared and highways that have already been established. And I think if you look closely at 109, which would effectively reduce the length of the run, that road's already been expanded. I'm not sure where the expansion would take place on that run that really wouldn't allow those power lines to be placed on 109. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes public comments.
Mr. Chairman, since my wife didn't speak, can I make one sentence?
Sure. I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
I'm 80 years old. My farm's fenced. It's got gates in it. It holds cattle. From late February, early March, to May the 29th, I sold $20,000, a little better than $20,000 worth of calves off that little farm. What you're looking at is going to end all that, any way you cut it. People eat beef, even little children that go to bed hungry. So we need that as much as we do electricity. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't know this was on there, can I?
Sure. We are running out of time, so we have 15 minutes. We got the rest of our
I have
meeting.
15 minutes?
No. You have a minute.
My name is Mary Janai. I live at 1100 Lock School Road, and I absolutely sympathize with these folks about TVA. TVA runs big power lines right through the land, right across the street from where I live and down across. In the last tornado, the TVA power lines were crumpled down into a little massive string, and we had no power, and they had lines everywhere, and it goes right through residential areas, and it's scary. But I do think, I have a concern because, as you know, I've been fighting with Gallatin about overdevelopment. We are just totally overwhelmed with all the things that the decisions they've made, and of course they don't listen to the citizens. I have a concern because they have actually approved another data center for Facebook, and they use a lot of power. And I wonder if this is all politically motivated by the Facebook group, the Gallatin, and the economic development out of Nashville. And I sympathize with them. If there's a better route that they could take that will not impact these folks, like you said, we all eat beef, we need cattle, and the same thing across the street. We have beef over there, and there's not going to be any more beef over there because they succumb to the developers' wishes. So I just wanted to say that I totally sympathize for them because this has become a nightmare, especially in Gallatin.
All right, thank you. All right, that concludes public comments. For the the chairman have none, or the county manager?
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Old business, item A, discussion resolution 1504-02, clarifying ownership, routine maintenance, support services, and funding for the Hendersonville Library. Quick claim deed, negative recommendation on the reverter clause from Genox. I'll move for discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Klein. All fair say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the floor is open. So I guess,
If I may,
yeah, all directors has kind of been in the purview for.
the problem they had with it was it a reverter that said if this was not used as a public library, that it would revert back to the ownership that it currently exists at the moment. After that meeting transpired, I received contact from the city attorney for Hendersonville, and he brought to light some issues I was unaware of. And I've got some handouts. I just found out about this, but apparently, as part of the start of this library, the city paid $7.7 million. This is what they're telling me. They paid $7.7 million of the approximate $10 million price tag for the construction of the building, and the Friends of the Arts and Literature in Sumner County donated the remainder, approximate $3.1 million. And these are the financial attachments that was as part of the correspondence. So that's why I didn't think that that was much of an ask, and if anything, it just puts us at status quo, the reverter does. So I just wanted that information to be out there so you all understood a little bit more about why Hendersonville is asking for the reverter. And I will entertain any questions you have.
Chairman Klein, why was this negative recommendation from the Genox?
Because the information, Mr. Chairman, that we had was exactly what Mr. Sipler was just talking about. We were of the understanding during the meeting that basically the county had paid a third and the city had paid a third, and that the balance was from donations. So that was our understanding of it. In my opinion, this changes a lot of things. The rationale at the time was, well, if we're paying the lion's share of maintenance and labor and everything involved with it, that since we were on even ground with the investment in the building, that since we were going to take on the full responsibility thereafter, that would, in effect, dilute the capital account of the city's ownership in it, and that by the time this ended not being a library, which could be 50 years from now, could be 20 years from now, we didn't know, and we don't know to this day, that it made sense that since we would have that kind of an investment, the reverter clause was not really a reasonable position to have. The fact that they paid $7 million for it, and then the $3 million was donated, or something along that line, in my line of thinking, changes things. One of the suggestions was made that the city take over. I know that causes ramifications for the library board, probably, but it's kind of like a new game as far as I can see now compared to what we knew a week ago.
I'll just restate the point of how we got here, since people haven't heard this, but we've been dealing with this since August. And this all came up because the Hendersonville Library was being neglected on maintenance. Things were broken, informed by the library director that the meeting room had been broken for years, bad air conditioning, nobody was fixing it. They were being told that the school board, its job was to fix the Hendersonville Library. That's what we were told last August. So, Mayor Isabel asked me to put some legislative to basically clarify the language. The problem was it was a poorly written resolution in 2015 on the joint ownership of the library. The comptroller actually sent a letter, I guess, rebuking Hendersonville for how they had it on books. So what the county did is they actually put the library some maintenance, but based on the interpretation of the law director and real estate law is that when you have joint ownership on a property, something goes wrong with it, you're jointly responsible for fixing that. If the air conditioner breaks, elevator broke. Elevators are broken for I think 2 months, maybe 3 months. I know at least 2, and wasn't getting repaired. And so that was an ADA issue. That happened, I know, October, November, December, and so all we want to do is like, hey, can we clarify this resolution so we make sure nobody's pointing fingers and we can just get the library fixed immediately? That's how this started out. It didn't start out as we want the library. So unfortunately, in Hendersonville, they were like, we don't want the library. I mean, that's what we're being told. That's what they decided to do. So this is not something that the county, in my opinion, wants it. But we just want a resolution to keep patrons from things falling through the cracks and the library not being taken care of. And that was a problem. It wasn't being taken care of. That's just a fact. So I don't know where this reverter language came from, or the crazy lies are being told out there that we're going to do something with this building that might not be a library. It's unfounded lies and baseless accusations and false truths, which is commonplace these days. So I don't know where that comes from. I don't have a problem with the reverter because I think it's silly, but I mean, it's a library. I don't see why anybody would do anything different with it if the county wanted to take on. But if Hendersonville, the residents of Hendersonville want to take on the financial burden of the entire library themselves, the city of Portland has done that, and they pay for the entire library. The county doesn't pay anything. All they do is pay to staff it. And that's because the county does currently take on, it's like $940,000 a year is what it costs us to maintain and run the library. That does not include, I think that does include, Hendersonville donation of $50,000 as part of the maintenance of effort agreement. That might include I think, $10,000 of grants, possibly $20,000 of grants. So around about close to $1 million is what it costs to run that library. So Hendersonville's only paying 50 grand. So if they want to take on the full, I'm more than willing to entertain that. Send back to Hendersonville if they would like to take on the library and own it. I would be in favor of that as well. So.
Mr. Chairman, does White House also own their own library?
They're in Robertson County.
Okay, it's got nothing to do with Sumner County.
I'd like to ask the attorney.
Sorry, is that the White House library is on the Robertson County side? I would like to clarify as a library board trustee to the county, the White House library is owned by that municipality. The physical location, I believe, is in the Robertson County side, but it is not part of the Sumner County Library.
Correct.
Bad word system, but it's the best word I have to say because there are 5 libraries that are noticed by the Sumner.
Chairman,
What would happen if, for some reason, 30 to 40 years from now, we decide to build a bigger, better library somewhere on another piece of property in Hendersonville, and we sell that piece of property? Does that mean that the city of Hendersonville would take that portion of money?
Based on what we've got now, you would have to have some sort of an agreement that in lieu of reversion, that they're willing to allow that transaction to happen, so it would have to be addressed at that time.
Well, now, this, Mr. Chairman, was my problem, and I spoke out about this at the General Operations Committee. I am a commissioner from Hendersonville, and I want the best for Hendersonville and the library, and I also am my wife and I both are members of the Friends of the Library. So I'm very, very concerned that the right
about the email he sent. The land that the library sits on currently was donated by Dan Hale they put the,
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
yeah. And the building structure itself was built entirely by that $10 million, not by county money.
But then perhaps the city wants to just take the library.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Hyde. I mean, if the cost to us is $1 million a year, that's 10 years to pay for everything. Give it 12 or 13 for inflation. But the long and short of it is, if we contribute to that library for another 13 years, we'll have well paid for it. I think the reverter clause is a problem because of the fact that if we did vacate that building and sell it, we would need that money to build the new library. And I go on record as well as saying, if Hendersonville wants that library and everything involved in it, all we were trying to do was simplify the maintenance of it. That's how this whole thing got started, as you said. So we decided at the time that one should own it or the other should own it. It was our understanding that Hendersonville wanted us to own it. This reverter clause came at the 12th hour. And so I'm good if Hendersonville wants to take over the entire library and all the responsibilities to it. And I'm fine if we do it. The reverter clause, now thinking about it, it'll pay for itself in 10 years or maybe a few more. So I agree with Chairman Hyde.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we put this on our next meeting so that I'd like to do some calculations and some thinking about it, and I would like to make a motion that we put it on our next month's meeting.
Chairman, I was given instructions to try to do one of three things. We own it, or Hendersonville owns it, or we completely revamp the agreement about repairs. Those are the three things I was tasked with. Those three things were presented.
In legislative.
Well, they were, it made its rounds, and I presented that to Hendersonville. And this was what they came back with. So I have not talked to them about any other options once they decided that's the one that they wanted to pick. So I don't know if they're open to it or not open to it, but if we're going to bump this, the only thing I would ask is, do you want me to talk to them about any other options, or do you just want this to sit dormant until you meet again?
As part of my motion, I'd rather just not discuss it any further, but let us think about it and do some calculations and consider it next time we meet.
I will say the options on the table are, I think, 4 options. One is keeping it as it is with status quo and it's up in limbo. Negotiate the resolution to be clear in the language as far as like who's responsible for what, which was the original intent. Of course, 3 is county takes ownership fully, no strings attached, or municipal takes ownership, no strings attached. I think those are kind of the 4 main options. So I'd like to keep this under old business. I don't think we need a motion for that at this point. So we'll just keep it under old business and move along. There's no objection. All right, item B, discussion county parks and recreation board. For the sake of time, I'd like to keep this under old business for next month. If that's okay, without any objection.
No objection.
New business, veteran service report presentation is in your packet. I don't know if Mr. Oakey is here or not. So we will move along. Item B is discussion of removal of members from boards and committees. Chairman, I think you brought this forward.
Mr. Chairman, I brought this forward, and it's very appropriate that we deal with it now because we have a situation with membership on this board because of something that was not clear or spoken to in our rules. And if we have in this county a means of appointing
Sir, if you wouldn't mind, sirs, if you guys could take outside.
It makes it a more difficult situation, with a two-thirds vote of the commission, but there needs to just be some kind of mechanism to remove anyone from a board, in my opinion. And if we don't get a positive vote to move this to the floor, I will, ask that it be added to the agenda. I just think the commission needs to vote on it one way or another.
I'll make a motion for discussion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Klein, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, is this something that we would need to add to our rules?
That would be a good question for, it seems to me it would need to, change our rules. In my opinion, yes. I'm not sure what that would look like, or where that would go specifically. I know that, the county commission rules, Commissioner Mo Taylor and I talked about this before its passing, needed a mechanism to remove committee members who just didn't show up. And so, this commission voted to add that. You can remove the full commission, not a committee. Could remove a committee member who is, just absent, two absences consecutively, could be removed from a committee, for lack of attendance. So that did not exist before, so we have added that type of mechanism into our rules. I'm not sure, I have to research it, because again, I didn't see this until today when I got back to this. It's not part of the agenda packet, 2 weeks ago. So I'm just now reading it, so I haven't time to fully look over it, but, what is, I guess my question with the law director is what in Robert's rules currently exists that, I mean, for allowing of a removal of a committee member? I mean, is it just with cause or some type of cause versus just two-thirds people, or does anything exist? I haven't researched it, so I'm not.
Yeah, it was part of my opinion.
Yes, it was.
And I've had a night to sleep in.
I'm not talking about committee chairman, I'm talking about committee member specifically. I'm talking about, this is, Chairman Hyde's resolution is about removing anybody from any board or committee, at any time. Now, my only, I guess, problem with this is some things being asked only in the commission and not the county mayor's office for the same thing. So I want to make sure it apply to any county board or committee that's confirmed by the county commission. I assume that would be also a standing board of the commission, as well as a appointed board that is either appointed by the commission or approved by the commission. I think that would be the spirit of this. But my question is, does Robert's rules, is there anything that exists already in Robert's rules that enacts for the removal for a person who's been appointed to any board or committee? And I'm not sure to answer that question right now as far as, you know, just in general.
Robert's rules, based on the issue we dealt with recently, there would have to be neglect of duty or misconduct, and it would be reported to an investigative body. But that's the whole purpose of your rules, is we don't go to Robert's rules if you've clarified it within the procedures for the county. And that's, I think, what Mr. Hyde is alluding to. So anyway, that's where we're at. If we beef up the rules, we don't have to keep making a Robert's rules.
So we're basically making a spot where, I guess we need to figure out where it's going to go in Robert's rules as far as the resolutions we've done now with other things, and written an actual resolution that was more geared towards what section we're going to put this, in our standing rules and procedures document, updating it. I didn't see that in this, so I wasn't sure where that would need to go.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I did it as just a resolution, which has the power of the commission as well as the commission's handbook.
So we want to add to it.
With either way.
I think it would be a good idea to add it to our standing rules and procedures as far as like outline, as far as like the new, as far as the committee structure, because we did add that for, again, removal for absences. I think it would just be kind of the
could just be added to the handbook. I mean, it in effect is by the power of the commission, their desire.
I don't disagree with that, but I believe there's some other items that I've been asked to review which could potentially be included or modify terms we have in place. So even if we do the resolutions, we really need to take some time to revamp the standing rules as they are.
I would make an amendment, to this motion, that the resolution be specific as to adding a rule for this in our standing rules of procedure. I'm not sure where that would be. You'd have to look, I don't want to take up time.
If you can make it a modification of the rules, inserting a new paragraph, modifying a paragraph or section.
Well, in addition to this resolution, that's my amendment to add that.
I would have no objection to that as long as it does not dilute the authority of the resolution.
No, I don't see where.
No, it's just taking this resolution specifically, being specific in the rule. This is the spirit of my amendment, but I'm not sure what that looks like right now, so I would want to work with the law director.
Yeah, I'll have to spend some time with what kind of language
for what that is. Is there any other questions or discussion on this? No. All right. So I'm going to vote on the amendment first, or I got to get a second. I don't have a second. So.
Okay, I'll second your amendment.
I made a motion is to have the law director's office clarify and research a change to our standing rules and procedures as far as incorporating language with a 2/3 vote of the full county, the county commission, for removing a member from a board or a committee, no matter the appointing authority. So that's kind of the spirit of my resolution, my amendment. Any questions?
But not changing any authority that is vested in this resolution.
No, it's just restating, because your resolution is talking about the full commission having 2/3 majority vote in order to do something. So that it would just, having our standing rules clarify that the full commission would have a 2/3 vote as far as removing somebody from a committee. All right, my amendment's on the floor, so all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, it carries. Now to the main motion, Chairman Hines. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chairman Commissioner Klein. Klein. Hey, Klein. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that
Point
carries.
of clarification, when are we doing this for this upcoming commission meeting? So we'll be doing all this research and all this before the meeting on Monday?
We're all amended from the floor Monday. So,
Okay.
but that was my amendment, so it's just condensing a paragraph, so I'd be glad to help you with it. All right. Item C is paid parking and ownership, parking deed and easement. I think you were tasked last month, law director, with bringing us back all of the properties that are associated with this. I think that was what this came back. I know this is in budget right now, as far as the budgetary.
Yes.
And it's not been settled in budget. I know that, in my opinion, this is not right, for doing anything with this at the moment, for legislative. Is there anything?
I think
Is there?
we were just going to discuss the actual ownership. Is that?
It was.
I was here. Yeah.
So, is there anything that you want to bring to our attention outside the packet?
Outside of the packet.
Well, excuse me, related to the packet information.
It just
The ownership of
the ownership is Sumner County, Tennessee. However, there was a easement agreement executed with the county and the trustees of the East Main Church of Christ, known as the Gallatin Church of Christ, and they were given, they acknowledge a 350 parking space garage, and they were to receive, I want to say 35
That sounds right.
allocated spots. It's in the easement, which is part of the packet.
Go to page
39 is the easement. Yes, I'm sorry, it's the, 5th whereas on the
35,
easement
yeah.
agreement, 35 parking spaces for residents of Christian Towers and to provide Church of Christ access use of the parking garage for evening and weekend services.
So 35 basically reserved
Dedicated spaces.
for the residents of Christian Towers.
Yes, sir. And then also evening and weekend services parking for the Church of Christ.
All right, so that is is that the only restriction, or is it
That's the only easement we could find.
out of those 350 spots, there's approximately, is it 350? Do we know the total number of spots? Is it 300, 350? Seems like 350, but
That's close. I don't think that's the exact number.
regardless.
Near to 300 that day.
Oh, it was down to 300.
Well, it's more than 300, but
300 that day, was whatever it is, I can't remember the exact.
yeah, I had it on a document, but I don't think that.
While that number may be fluid, the 35 is not.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's that 35, I guess, my question of clarification is here, when it says 35 free parking spots for the residents of Christian Towers,
Yes.
then it says, and provide Church of Christ access and use of the parking garage for evening and weekend services, meaning the entire parking garage.
I interpret that as two separate uses.
Okay, that's
Yes,
right. So the only thing that's guaranteed is the 35,
yes.
as far as reserved, putting up, hey, these are reserved spots, they have signs, you can get towed if you park there.
Which brings us to our first paid parking problem, is the evening and weekend services. The only thing I can see to get around that is the paid parking is during business hours during the week, and then the gates are just left open on evenings and weekends.
McKendree and United Methodist hosted that, they usually downtown and park in the, they shared their parking spot with Cam2, I think. And you didn't have to pay to park to go to church there. But I don't think it was the entire parking garage.
Well, this begs the question of, even if it wasn't a paid parking garage, how are you reserving spots for church members? I mean, you can't, there's no mechanism to do that, even the way this was written, even as free parking. I mean, it's free parking, you can fill up with citizens, I mean, you can't.
All you could do is do signage and hope that people are.
Church parking and not, you can put up, I mean, that's up to them, but I'm just saying, there's nothing the county can do about that way it's written, I think.
Remember, there's two things, so which are you talking about, the evening and weekends, or are we talking
I'm
about the
talking evening and
35?
weekends, evening and weekends, like, let's say that we weren't
I
talking
think
about.
that's an as-needed issue, so anybody could use the parking garage during that time, but they have to have access to
This
it.
is problematic, because it says, and provide Church of Christ access and use of parking garage for evening and weekend services.
Yeah, access and use, that's just leaving
Up
the
to
gate
them.
open. Yeah, it's up to them how they
Okay.
park.
Just wanted to make sure that's not,
Correct. Now, the 35 is a different story. That would need probably be marked spaces, and due to what's the name of that?
Christian Tower.
Christian Towers, is that a elderly
Yeah, seniors project.
facility? Okay. Then it probably all need to be ground floor, and I guess with the posted signage, at least those 35 spots, they could enforce that themselves, however they want to keep track of who's supposed to be parking there or not.
yeah, I don't know, I mean, that's
Yeah, that's their,
a whole nother.
yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
So, on a situation like in the summer, they have a third Thursday where they have live bands, and it's feasible that that entire parking structure could fill up prior to a church event. it's first come, first serve, and there's no violation with that?
Not based on what the.
It's, why do I keep losing it? It is access and use. If we can show a good faith attempt at giving them access and use, we can't predict the outcome. And every day could be some different event, I don't know, but as long as we can say they're getting access and use on evenings and weekends, I guess it's first come, first served.
It seems again another loosely written, not clear to define agreement that, it's just a gray area. But, well, is this the only thing that is 35 spots that we know of? Is that it?
Yes.
And obviously, giving them access for evening and weekend services, which means if you were to do paid parking, it would need not be only during business hours.
That's my interpretation.
So, I'd make a motion to move this to budget since it's there already, doing our feasibility study, and handle it there, pass it on.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner, Hyde, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, move this to budget. All right, New Shackle Island Volunteer Fire Department lease. I'll make a motion for discussion.
Second?
I am not familiar with this and what's going on. This company, this came from Lots, correct?
Yes.
Can you explain this?
Yes.
Is this dealing with the existing lease from like 1993?
Do we need to vote on the?
Oh, sorry, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Apologies.
Mr. Chairman, when this was brought forward at General Operations, there was a misunderstanding as to what was being charged. There was a complaint that the fire department there was being excessive in renting of the facility. And as we discovered, after I made a few phone calls with the chief and with the head secretary there, they were charging $200 instead of the $150 that had been charged since the beginning.
It was $300.
Pardon?
I think it was $300.
Well, we were told that initially forever the previous chief was charging $150 and actually giving the space to civic groups, and the new chief was charging $200 and without a cleaning fee, without anything, and doing the same thing with the civic groups. That it was free to the civic groups. So if you had a bridal shower or a birthday party or whatever, you charge $200 unlimited for the day, and you didn't have to, pay a cleaning fee. You've got the use of everything. And so what we determined at that point was that that's not unreasonable. At the same time, the law office determined that the lease from the 1990s probably needed to be updated. So what our attorney did is they wrote a new lease that seems reasonable in my reading, and that they will be able to do effectively what has always been done in the past. And Mr. Sidler, correct me if you think I'm wrong in my retelling of what we've done here, but that the new lease pretty much allows for minor rental, which by their own admission is once or twice a month, and the rest is donated to, civic groups. Is that about right, Mr. Sidler?
Yes.
Okay. So, there was one statement by one of the people who spoke from the public. I don't know, we just wanted to move the new lease forward, and so that's why it's here.
Yeah, this building, I know Chairman Hyde was here. It was my old Commissioner Jerry Stone, I think, that brought this forward. It's a community center.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a volunteer fire department.
Right.
And so it is a community center owned by the county. that the fire department leases, the volunteer fire department leases space, and of course now it's an EMS station as well. Yeah. What is it, when you're talking, did you say, I was trying to read this, my apologies, about addressing the fees? I know there was a sheriff's deputy that couldn't afford to do it, or thought it exorbitant, so I'm having a problem with that.
Right.
Charged.
Now, in fairness to the fire department, they will do whatever we ask them to do. If we ask them to not charge anything for anybody, they'll do that.
Well, I think they should, because they're bearing the burden of utilities, in my understanding. So
They are.
if there's utilities and there's cleaning fees, I mean, it's a space, but it's not a profit center.
Right.
For charitable contributions. It's basically covering expenses at this point for the community. So I think it's my understanding. So where is that? Is that addressed in here at all?
It's number 29, and I just, if I could, my understanding when I was tasked with this was that we were trying to allow them to continue to do this, but to do it in a consistent manner, and so that they could still derive some sort of offset income. And there was a public comment about who should receive that money, and that's entirely up to you all. I just have this there because at the time the intent was to not take this ability away from them, but let them have some sort of ability for supplemental.
Well, I guess here's my only problem with the way this lease is written. I think it's number 29. I mean, think of it as community center. It's no different than going to the library.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say a child, it's mainly used for birthday parties and like baby showers and things like that. The majority of the use is my understanding. I'm not going to have somebody get liability insurance to have a kid's birthday party at a community center. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if somebody's going to have something at a library or community center like Gallatin, I don't know if Gallatin Civic Center does that, I don't know if Millersville Community Center does that, as far as having, you're going to have just the space, and I don't think there's any charge for it. So, I don't know I'm having a hard time with this one.
I drafted this as if you were a client, and I'm trying to protect you, so whatever changes you want to make, it's entirely up to the committee or commission.
I can tell you that my family owns a facility in Gallatin that gets rented infrequently, but still, we always require, because somebody can trip, fall, break an arm, whatever, and if we don't require them to additionally insure, and it's fairly inexpensive insurance, and ours is a 10,000 square foot facility, you can have big problems, and you're better off not leasing it at all. That's our, as a private enterprise, that's our logic.
I understand what you're saying, and you're an individual that's trying to protect yourself, but I tend to agree with what Chairman Mansfield is saying, and that I doubt very seriously that if someone got injured there, no matter what kind of insurance they had, that we would not, that it would clear us of any liability. I think we would still probably be sued. What do you think, Mr. Attorney?
They're going to sue everybody.
Yeah, they're going to sue everyone. It's not, and the government is the big one. They will go after it every time they go away.
And to Mr. Klein's point, that's where my head was at, because when I do these, it was very much a private, where I'm dealing with a client who's protecting their interests.
Yeah.
So that, I understand both sides, but whatever you want that to say.
I mean, again, looking at it, whether it's a bridal house, you'd have to do that for, you get liability insurance if somebody wants to do a party there, or any other county property, or then you start talking about Shackle Island doing, or the turkey shoot as a fundraiser, and then you're just getting in, you're just opening I mean, at this point.
I think you bring up a great question, is to stick to a standard policy of what is being required at our other county-owned properties.
There's not anything. it
Okay.
should. But
Then
again,
this would set a precedent, so.
I know, but I didn't, I think the intent of the space is for people to be able to use it because taxpayer dollars did build it for kid birthday parties, baby showers, community events, hosting, a meeting for a nonprofit group or just a community group want to have a meeting there. You really get into that, the same thing, because they'll charge people, I used to charge people $50 to have a meeting there for the evening. Shack Island did a couple years ago.
I guess I'm agreeing with you. If it's not being done anywhere else, it needs to come out of this one.
Okay.
I make a motion that we strike this.
So, I guess, would it be part, I'd say the second sentence, which is, first part of the special condition says tenants may rent out the leased premises for no more than 24 hours for events, provided the tenant charges a uniform rate to hold such events, such rate to be published by tenant. I don't have a problem with that necessarily.
You take out the last
So
sentence.
take out the last sentence, Chairman has a motion, and I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, so that's struck from that. We agree with that. I guess my only question is this all started because of the amount being charged. So do we want to put a limit on that amount? That's my concern, because I don't.
Well, as I said, it did not seem exorbitant to the General Operations Committee. Just based on our experience, in our facility, if we rent it out for 3 or 4 hours, it's $500. And so, Commissioner Holmes is also here, and they have the little building there on Long Hollow Pike, and it seems to me, she said they charged about $200 for events. So it did not seem out of the normal.
To be clear, what started this was an inconsistency.
Oh, in between what they're charging certain people?
Yes.
Okay, so that's mainly the issue.
Yes.
But do we want to put a cap on it, or we just want to leave that alone? It's a county building, it's not a private building.
It's not a legal question.
I don't know what that.
Could we say that any change in a fee schedule would need to come back before the commission? Is that possible? Legal?
I mean, we have
I just don't want to see the commission get mired up in having to have these little things hanging out there that somebody's checking on.
I guess my question is, would it make sense, or would you guys be amenable to capping it at $200? Like, such charges shall not exceed, not exceed amount, I don't know, or is that, I'm just asking the question, I don't.
The fire department was very amiable and flexible on whatever they would do, so I think that would be fine. And if they, probably with a clause that said if they needed to increase, if they could come back to general operations or something.
Were they charging people more than $200?
No.
Some people?
No, they said they had never charged anybody more than $200.
But were they charging some people 50, some people 200?
For private parties, it was, they had moved it up from 150, which is the previous chief's stated amount, was what we were told. And they moved it from 150 to 200. Now, that 150 could go back all the way to the beginning of that building, for all I know. I don't know how old that building is, but, everything else is increasing in cost. I didn't see, and I don't think our committee felt like an additional $50 here 20 years after the fact was excessive. And so their secretary, I think it was the secretary I spoke to, said, no, they just wanted to increase it a little bit because they clean the facility after the parties and that. And they only charge private parties. They don't charge civic groups.
Okay.
And they said it's really, in reality, they're talking about twice a month.
Okay.
So, $400 a month. Yeah.
I'm fine not adding monetary, unless you guys want.
Yeah, I don't see the need to.
So, fine. We're 30 minutes over time, so we do need to move on. And this is going to be on the floor of the commission on Monday. regulations, and when we shoot firearms on that property, so I mean.
No, but you wouldn't want firearms ammo there.
No, that's called.
And they, some of those are partisan election things,
Oh, yeah.
not just John Knox Sunday School class.
No, it's not the John Knox Sunday School class, it's the Shackle Island Volunteer Fire Department that's hosted by Kay Rouse. So.
And John Knox, our church, has theirs.
Correct, but that's not a political thing.
No, ours is not. We did not have alcohol at all.
Maybe you're pure Catholic.
But we're not Catholic.
Anyway, any more on this, or we need to do anything else? I mean, I'm not. I'm fine with this as it is.
I am fine with it as it is.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item E is Election Commission lawsuit update executive session. So, we'll call it in a session. We're going to have to ask that somebody leave the room who's not a county commissioner. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that, we send forward a resolution requesting the establishment of an ad hoc committee to negotiate with the election commission on, the lawsuits that we're involved with, to be appointed by the commission's chairman and to be a group of commissioners and or general public members.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Item F, TBA. As you know, this was Commissioner Holmes' brought this to attention. I had a lot of citizens calling me and emailing me about this a couple weeks ago, and honestly, I had no idea what was going on with this. This to me, that's why I asked the law director. I found a resolution that I helped a citizen write 3 years ago, and then I brought to legislative. County Commission passed unanimously, just asking the TVA to consider an alternate route. I don't know what that language looks like because, again, I haven't studied. I don't have any background information on this, but I'm happy to make a motion that we do a resolution asking the TVA in the same spirit as what this other resolution was, that they take the least invasive route over private property and farmland and splitting versus, it sounded like Highway 109 was the preferred route versus the Route 18 and Route 12, which I think, see those on here. That would have been starting from this, I guess, this legend. But I mentioned Route 18 and I heard Route 12 not doing that versus 109. Unless it's Route 12 is.
Route 12.
Is 109.
They said that was more conducive to business.
Correct. So, I don't know what the entirety of that language would look like. I know that the citizen that worked on this that I helped had a lot of language of, there's more environmental aspect. I think this would be a little bit more consideration to private property as far as like splitting it, farmland, economic viability, decreasing property value, health and safety issues with transmission lines running right over your house and property. Mr. Vero talked about, of course, Mr. Duncan talked about economic value in cattle farming. And quite a bit of citizens spoke on this. So my motion is to have the law director's office look at using this resolution 21F3-05 as a base to craft a new resolution asking TVA to consider the same things, but we just change the language to talk a little bit more about property values, health and safety issues, as well as private property and splitting of farmland. Second by Commissioner Hyde. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
There was a heron nest, like migratory pattern, if you want to keep some of that environment.
That's fine. This talked a lot about a lizard, and so I don't know, salamander species. We'll keep the same spirit of this. This is, I think, 80% there.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just a quick question. Do you plan on bringing this on the floor at the commission meeting, this next commission meeting?
I can, or do we need to wait? I mean, is it, I don't know.
Some of the citizens wanted to talk about it at this next commission meeting. And so, if it's not gonna be on the agenda, I wanna make sure I tell them not to come.
Yeah, I don't have any, see any reason why you could push it forward. It seems like it's a matter of more imminent importance sooner rather than later, in my opinion. It's very good. I think it's about 80%. I can give you guys the draft languages. I have the, I think the Word document saved when that citizen wrote this and then with her. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You guys can remind me about this tomorrow, Steve.
Sure.
This resolution.
I work with you on it too, if you want.
All right, zoning, this is just for, zoning items, I think, A, B, C, and D are just, for docketing purposes, so, motion to group and approve.